Hello, Isaac in Austria. I hope, guys, you can hear me properly. Today's webinar is about sales, and it is pretty much for everyone. So, no matter your function, ICX, OGX, finance, talent management, it doesn't matter because you can learn something useful for yourself from this webinar. Even if you are not doing sales directly, you can apply those learnings in your daily life to sell yourself to your future employee, to sell your idea to your teammates, and so on and so forth. So the technique I want to introduce you today to is called spin selling. This technique is based on the research. I will tell you about it a little bit later. But in general, this is the one we are using in sales quite often in ICX for sure. And this is the one you can learn about today. The main idea of spin selling is to get to the right needs of your customer in order to make sale happen. First of all, before we move forward, I want to ask you to reflect for yourself what are your biggest challenges while doing sales. And while you are thinking about it, I want to share my personal story, how I started in sales as member in OGT back then in 2015 when I only joined ISAC. I was assigned to hold sales meetings with people who would like to go on global entrepreneur abroad. And the process was working a bit differently back then. The idea was that people should first sign the contract with us, and then they can pick an opportunity and be approved for it. And I was super scared to even make the first call through to call people who signed up on Expo to find out how I can help them and if they are interested to go on internship, how I can help them to find the opportunity. So overall, I was super afraid to call, and this fear disappeared probably only after first 10, 20 calls, if not more. And I was super scared also to go to the meetings. I was thinking that, okay, I'm only 18 years old and I will be meeting people who are 25, who are looking for professional internships. How can I be, I don't know, how can I convince them to buy something? What if they will think that I am not serious or I am not grown up enough to handle such serious business as internship abroad? What I discovered that my confidence grew with every meeting and with me learning more about the product and getting better. So as long as I was picking up lines, understanding how is the process working in global talent, which steps needs to be done when, what are the specific recommendations I can give to those people, I became way better sorry, in meetings, and my performance became better, so I got to sign more and more contracts, and finally I realized that it was not that difficult. I just had to practice more, learn more about the product, and things could happen. I want to show you this little piece of video. I'm quite sure you saw this movie.
I really have to give this thought and talk to my wife about it. Can I call you back?
You know, right? You gotta think about it. You gotta talk to the fucking wives or the fucking tooth fairy. Point is, doesn't matter what the fuck they say. The only real objection that they have is that they don't trust you guys. Why should they trust you? Look at you, you're a bunch of fucking sleazy salesmen, right? So, I mean to tell me that if I put you in at Union Carbide and at 7 and took you out at 32, Texas Instruments at 11, and took you out at 47, US Steel at 16, took you out at 41, you could be saying to me right now, Chester, pick me up a few thousand shares of Disney on the spot, right?
Okay, I guess YouTube doesn't want me to show you the full video, which is fine. I guess you recognize this piece. This piece is from Wolf from the Wall Street. This is the great movie for people who only starts learning how to sell. The techniques they use are a little bit of harsh objection handling, and for sure, they establish personal connection with potential buyers. think we will learn about today as well. Okay. So, before we move forward, let's review a little bit how the process of sales looks like in ICX. So, you know that we start with understanding and definition of our market. So, we first do the market research, we list down the startups, we list down the schools, NGOs, and companies we want to get in touch with to offer our product. Then we do the prospecting. So, we try to find that segment which we think our product will be most useful for. For example, we understand that maybe for the very early stage startups, our product is not a fit simply because they can not afford to maintain an intern. Then we define our approach. So how would we approach them? What would we offer? Which specific points of value proposition we will capitalize on? And then we do in the pre-meeting plan. We decide what would we cover over the phone and which parts we would leave out for the meeting. We make sure we have our proposal prepared, designed, and ready to be used, and schedule the agenda for pre-meeting, for meeting itself. Next step, which is exactly the thing that moves the process forward, is discovery call or cold call. That's the moment when you contact an unknown person, company you have not been in touch with before, and you offer your product for the first time. Then we move into meeting. If everything goes well, final call to action of every cold call you make should be scheduling of the meeting, of course, and follow up. So, when will we meet? At which time? What would we prepare? What would be the information we would like to cover? And after the meeting as well, you do a lot of follow ups to finally make the sale, close the deal, and sign the contract with company or startup. After that, what follows is account management and continuous follow up or on the sales process. How does sales look like in OGX? We have and we start with understanding and defining of our market as well. So we realize who are the students we will be targeting, what is our call to action for those students, and with which value propositions we will be attracting them. Then we move into attraction itself with all our info stands, lecture presentations, marketing stunts. We try to attract as much young people as possible. As soon as they are in the loop, we move towards expectation setting and we define what will be the process looking like further, what are the steps required from both sides, what should happen next, how can we support applicants. And of course, this ends up in constant follow-upping, constantly calling and talking to person and explaining how the system works and dealing with doubts as well for sure. Possibly we can have meetings and calls with EP to ensure that we provide enough of support and support that is needed. And if everything goes well, person gets accepted to an opportunity and then moves into approval and outgoing preparation from our side. Both for ICX and OGX, it doesn't matter because in both cases you are working on the sales process. You have people in the loop, in the pipeline, you're working with them, and you are trying to move them to the final stage, which is signing of the contract or approval. You can apply those simple lessons I will show you right now. The lesson number one is you have to understand and navigate your customer's decision making process. So, for you to make the sale as fast as possible and in the most efficient way, you have to understand which steps your customer goes through each stage of the customer flow. How is he making his decision? What can be bottlenecks? What can be stopping person from making the choice? Maybe it's parents, maybe it's lack of money, maybe it's lack of information. So those are the things you have to understand and cover throughout touch point with your sales, with like your potential sales you can make happen. Decision making process overall consists of four stages: recognizing necessities, evaluating options, solving concerns, and implementation. What happens on each of those stages is that at the first stage you need to make person realize that he or she has issues you can help with. Then person would evaluate options. So of course the options you offer and options person also can have a side. Then person should understand how you should help person to solve all the concerns again regarding, are those interns good enough for my startup? Is this internship really something that will develop me personally and be a beneficial point for me in the future? You are working with all those concerns and help people to understand how our problems can really solve the issues. And finally, it moves on to the implementation. When you already closed the deal, you have signed the contract, and you are moving in the preparation phase. Lesson number two is you have to find the right need first of all. So, for example, if we talk about OGX, if person wants potentially wants to go on exchange to develop herself and to make positive impact on environment, but on the meeting you capitalize not on this part of value proposition we have, but on traveling and on exploring new country, there is the high chance that you will not find the match and person will not feel that the need he or she has will be covered. So you have to be very attentive and ask right questions to find the need of the person and address that part of value proposition of our product we have that would cover this need specifically. What is need in general? It's any revelation that expresses a desire or concern which can be solved by the seller. So, as in example I gave you just recently, I want to go somewhere to make positive impact and volunteer, and I can potentially solve this issue as Isaacr who offers an internship, volunteer internship abroad. Lesson number three, keep it real. What does it mean? A purchase decision that does not suit the needs is likely to have serious consequences for the decision maker. For example, if you didn't really want to go on internship abroad, but you pushed it through and person really did, there is the high chance that person will not be satisfied with this experience, and maybe it will cause you some problems from the brand experience, and again person spreading bad word about Isaac simply because person didn't have that need but still took the experience. But it also made up in the very good experience in the future, so you never know. But if you know for sure that this is something that does not match any need of the person, reconsider your offer. Lesson number four, this is the triangle of happiness. It looks super simple. It consists only of three parts: product knowledge, preparation, and right questions. This is, guys, literally the golden rule of how to make sales happen. Remember my story I shared with you at the beginning of me getting more and more confidence in sales? Because I started to learn more about the product, I started to practice more and to prepare myself for the meetings. And finally, I learned how to ask right questions because I already had some experience. And I was like, it seems like this person wants this and this. So how can I talk about it with person? By asking right questions. So by obtaining three of those parts of the triangular, you have a very good chances to make the sales happen. Now stop. This is my way of looking into who is watching this webinar. And if you reach this point, I want you to write in comments what are the main insights you had so far. You can write in comments to this video, or you can text me on WhatsApp or on Slack to let me know that you have watched and you have find something useful for you in this webinar. Thank you for those who will do it potentially. And now we will move to the core part of this presentation, which is how to ask right questions. I will teach you guys how to come up with right questions you can use during sales meetings to make sure the sales happens. So one more time, spin selling. How did it happen? Who came up with this? It was developed through a research study actually made by Hathaway Inc. of about 35,000 sales calls made. They took the data from those calls, they analyzed it, and they defined which questions help to actually make the sale happen. And they showed that the buyer tends to strongly believe in the product when they on their own see it as a solution for some problem. So one more time, you have to tackle the problem your potential buyer is having. To break it down, we have situation, problem, implication, and need payoff. And we will go through each of those stages and I will explain you which questions to ask on each of them. Why is it useful? The seller makes the customer reflect and conclude by themselves that they need the product, right? The customer is induced to know more about the product and the chances to buy it increases. How to make it happen? First of all, let's the situation, which is the first stage of spin selling. Here you have to understand what is the current situation of the organization or EP. These questions tend to be open and less objective. So here is example of questions you might ask on this stage. How is your company doing in this scenario for this amount of years? How is the process of global expansion in your organization? How is attraction and recruitment doing today? What is the profile you are looking for at your organization? So you see those questions are quite broad and even they help you to move forward in the right direction. They do not identify the need necessarily yet. Then we move straight into the problem. Here you have to relate to problems of your customer, um, to different difficulties or dissatisfactions of the buyer that we can potentially solve. And this will help you to begin identify the difficulties of the organization or EP. Questions you might ask here is what is the biggest difficulty you have to attract people with the desired profile? What are the biggest difficulties with moving beyond borders? Which country or part of the world is more difficult to relate to expand in terms of market knowledge? That may already give you hints on what type of profile you can provide to the company, right? Or what kind of country you can offer to an EP. Then we move into implication. This stage develops the consequences of the buyer's problem and builds the necessity for solution. Questions you might ask here are how did this aforementioned difficulties affect the results in the organization's growth, in delivering projects in other areas, how this problem is stopping you from making the results you want to make, and then you are pretty much implying that you can help to solve this issue. And then the last stage is need payoff. These questions seek to show the customer how the solution you have in mind could actually reverse a situation and bring benefits to the organization or EP. Focus on the solution that you have on this stage specifically. Questions here are how do these aforementioned difficulties affect the results in the company's growth in delivering projects in other areas? So that will actually help you to do the sale and to make sure you are communicating solution properly. And the last part of this webinar, I want you to actually not discuss but reflect to yourself what did you learn so far and what can we improve in the way we serve and communicate with our customers. That's it for today. Thank you a lot, guys, for watching. One more time reminder, if you watched till this point, write in comments what was the most useful for you and what did you learn so far. See you soon.